Welcome back to NexGen News, everyone. I'm Trenton.
And I'm Oscar.
And this is NexGen News.
A lot has happened since we last saw you.
We have a new president-elect and a president that might not leave.
Speaking of the election, let's head to our top story.
One of the most surprising states to turn blue or vote Democratic in the 2020 presidential election is Georgia. Georgia has long been known as a red or Republican state. So how did this traditionally red state flip to blue? Well, meet Democratic politician Stacey Abrams. After Abrams lost her campaign for governor of Georgia in 2018, she has been working with grassroots organizations, registering new voters, especially people of color. Her organization, the New Georgia Project, has been combating voter suppression and registered over 500,000 voters since 2014. Many of these new registered voters being Black Democrats. Although Joe Biden and Democrats won the presidential election in Georgia, the Senate election is still very much alive, and there are 10 states that require congressional candidates to get more than 50% of the vote to win. And Georgia is one of them. Because of the law, runoff elections will be held in January for not one, but 2 Georgia Senate races. Let's take a look. First up, we have Republican Senator David Perdue, who is up for re-election against Democrat Jon Ossoff. In the November election, Perdue outscored Ossoff with 49.7% of the vote, just shy of 50% he needed. In the other Georgia Senate runoff, we have Democrat and Pastor Raphael Warnock versus the recently appointed Republican Senator Kelly Loeffler. Warnock had the edge with 32.9% of the vote to Loeffler's 25.9%. In January, they will battle it out to 50% of the votes in the runoff election. These runoff elections are expected to receive high financial backing from both Republicans and Democrats, and you better believe that Stacey Abrams will be back battling for Democratic candidates. As Stacey Abrams recently said, we will have the investment and resources that never followed a runoff in Georgia for Democrats.
I get why the Senate runoffs are happening. They need 50% of the votes, so the math makes sense. But why is so much money being poured into these elections in Georgia?
Oh, believe it or not, these Senate races are a huge deal, not just for Georgia, but for the entire country. Let's head to Giovanna to learn more in this week's edition of NexGen Politics.
Hey NexGen News, Giovanna here for some NexGen Politics. Wouldn't it be nice if politicians just voted for what they believed in or what's best for the country? Well, in the United States, that's not really how it works, and we have the two-party system to thank for that. The two major political parties in the U.S. are the Republican Party and the Democratic Party. Nearly all elected politicians in the U.S. belong to one of these two parties. In general, the Republican Party is more conservative and values less government involvement in the lives of citizens, as well as keeping taxes low. The Democratic Party, on the other hand, is more liberal and values more government initiatives to help its citizens. Nowadays, compromise is hard to come by, and the party lines are more divided than ever as the Democrats and Republicans battle for control over the 3 branches of government. The presidency or executive branch, the Supreme Court or judicial branch, and the Congress or legislative branch, which is made up of the Senate and the House of Representatives. These 3 branches of government have checks and balances, meaning one branch does not have complete power and they rely on each other to pass and uphold laws. For example, a law proposed by the president or executive branch must be voted on and approved by both the House of Representatives and the Senate or the legislative branch. Because these 3 branches of government have checks and balances, political parties would ideally want to control all 3. But let's now take a look at the current political landscape and which political party controls which branch of government. For the executive branch, President-elect Joe Biden is a Democrat and will be replacing Republican President Donald Trump. The judicial branch is majority conservative, with 6 of the 9 Supreme Court justices having been appointed by Republican presidents. For the legislative branch, the House of Representatives has Democratic majority, and that leaves the Senate. The Georgia runoff elections in January will determine if the Senate gets controlled by the Republicans or the Democrats. If the Republicans keep their majority, Democrat President Joe Biden will be in a standoff with the Republican-controlled Senate. This means that he would likely have trouble passing bills such as his clean energy plan, because the Republicans will be able to block Democratic legislature. If the Democrats win the runoff election for Senate, they will take the majority of the entire legislative branch, and President Biden will receive more support in passing laws because the Democrats will control both the executive and legislative branch of government. For now, we'll have to wait and see what happens in the Georgia Senate runoff elections. Only time will tell if the Republicans and Democrats will continue to be at odds with each other, or if they can find some common ground for the good of the country.
Hey Trenton, if you could travel anywhere in the United States right now, where would you go?
New York City, baby, the Big Apple. Seeing the Statue of Liberty, eating a hot dog on the go, and watching Hamilton live in person.
Yes, to Hamilton, but how long do you think it will take to get to New York City?
I think the flight is about 6 hours from here in Los Angeles.
What if I told you could be in New York City in 3 hours?
Really? How?
Say hello to Virgin Hyperloop. They are creating high-speed passenger pods that will be able to travel up to 600 miles per hour in a tube. This ultra-fast form of transportation is propelled by magnetic levitation, which is used in high-speed bullet trains. Hyperloop's goal is to revolutionize travel, where floating pods packed with passengers and cargo will hurtle through vacuum tubes at speeds of 600 miles per hour, cutting air travel time in half. Recently, Hyperloop completed their first passenger test on the high-speed pod system. Let's take a look.
Yes!
Whoa, I'd definitely take one of those in New York City.
Trenton, I wouldn't hold your breath. Although this passenger test was an important step for Hyperloop, they don't expect to be fully operational for passengers until 2030.
Well, as Aaron Burr in Hamilton says, I'm willing to wait for it.
Wait for it.
Well, speaking of things that move at an accelerated pace, it looks like Operation Warp Speed is really earning its name.
Wait, have we moved from the Hyperloop?
Yes.
Okay, I'm ready.
It's not related to the Hyperloop, but Operation Warp Speed is moving quickly to develop and distribute a vaccine for COVID-19. According to the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services, the goal of this initiative is to produce and deliver 300 million doses of safe and effective vaccines, with the initial dose available by January 2021.
January 2021?
January 2021. It's a race to the finish line, as the government has awarded billions of dollars to various companies to develop their own version of the vaccine. This is a way to pay in advance for these millions of doses when they are ready and approved.
Trenton, do you even know how vaccines work?
Great question. Let's head to Giovanna for some NexGen science and get a better idea.
Hey NexGen viewers, it's me, Giovanna, and I'm here to give you a look into the science behind vaccines and how they work. We're going to think of it a bit like playing a game of Space Invaders.
Space Invaders!
Like the boys said, Space Invaders. The goal of the cannon is to move horizontally to fire at and kill these descending aliens that are invading the planet. Well, the cannon is your immune system that protects your body from these invaders. They can be bacteria, germs, or viruses that attack your body, causing infection and making you sick. They're also known as pathogens. So when the cannon recognizes one of these invaders, or pathogens, it fires off something called antibodies that directly destroy the antigen part of the pathogen. I know it sounds like a mouthful, but let's go back to the game. Usually the cannon, or your immune system, has enough time to recognize that the pathogens or invaders are coming to attack. The cells of your immune system remember those pesky antigens and know which type of antibodies to use. When a new virus comes along, it can be unrecognizable to the immune system, which has little time to develop the needed antibodies. This is where a vaccine can provide the backup that your immune system needs. A dose of a vaccine allows your immune system to make the antibodies that will fight off the invaders or pathogens. It does this by introducing a weaker or non-dangerous version of the antigens that are found on a particular pathogen to trick the immune system into creating antibodies. It's almost like an imposter pathogen. That's so sus. Sorry, wrong game. Well, now that you have these antibodies, your immune system will be able to recognize when it's being invaded and have the power to fight back. Not only are vaccines intended for your protection, but they also help protect others in the community. Some people with underlying health conditions or weakened immune systems may be unable to get vaccinated and rely on herd immunity to stay safe. This means that if enough people are vaccinated, it slows the spread of the virus or disease, providing those individuals with more protection. Now, vaccines are not without controversy. Some people believe that they are dangerous to our health, and others question the science that goes into developing them. Overall, vaccines are one of the largest contributors to global health, saving us from invaders such as polio, smallpox, measles, mumps, and hopefully soon, COVID-19.
You know, Trenton, this year's been full of disappointments and changes. Sometimes it's hard to find a ray of sunshine here and there.
Hey buddy, I hear you. So let me tell you something positive about a group you probably wouldn't be thinking about in a country you're probably not thinking about either.
Well, now you got me curious. Let's hear about it.
From the outside, it may not seem like much, but for Muslims, this building is a sign of change in Athens, Greece. This building is the first government-funded mosque in Athens since 1833. In fact, Athens has been the only capital city in the European Union without an official mosque. Now, for those that are unfamiliar, you can think of a mosque like a church or a synagogue. It's usually described as a house of prayer. And for Muslims, prayer is one of the 5 pillars of Islam. Each day they perform 5 daily prayers called salat. For Muslims in Athens, having this mosque means having a place to come together in a country that is over 90% Orthodox Christian. Let's hear from the mosque governing council member, Hyder Ashir, about the significance of this event.
It's an historic moment for the Muslim communities living in Athens. We have been waiting this mosque for so long. Since the first law was passed in 2006, it took 14 years because there were so many bureaucratic barriers and some legal issues with the construction of the mosque. But thanks to God, finally we have a mosque which is open and we can pray here freely.
As with any story, there are always 2 sides, along with pushback from the Greek Orthodox community. Some Muslims are dissatisfied with the efforts that were made in designing and building the mosque, feeling that the building itself does not represent what a true mosque should embody. Now, let's listen to the Muslim Association of Greece President Naim El Gandour.
I have mixed feelings because on the one hand we have a mosque, we have a public mosque here, but on the second hand you can see this is for second grade citizens. As you can see from the environment how the building is looking, it's indicative of how the state is perceiving the Muslims. This could never be like an institution, a Christian one, a church or something like that. But we fought a lot for this to NAG right now. We will be from the day after, we will be here to see how we can restore and improve things.
As with all gatherings lately, precautions due to COVID must be taken into consideration. And for now, Greece is under a lockdown that prohibits large gatherings for formal worship. Hyder Ashir addresses this by saying, "We will pray at home, and as soon as the lockdown is over, the mosque will again be open for worshipers."
Wow, Giovanna, I didn't know you were such a talented musician.
Seriously, what inspires you to play music?
Music is a great way to express yourself, whether you're listening to it or, in my case, playing it. I could never imagine my life without music.
You can't imagine your life without music. And neither can acclaimed pianist João Carlos Martins from Brazil.
Who's that?
Oh, Trenton, just wait, you're in for a real treat. Meet João Carlos Martins. This acclaimed Brazilian pianist has not been able to play piano with 10 fingers since he lost the use of his right hand 25 years ago. In 1995, Martin was attacked and mugged while visiting Bulgaria. The attack left him without the use of his right arm. Although he has undergone many surgeries over the years, he was only able to play with his left hand and one of his right fingers. But this just changed. Industrial designer Uberiton Bizarro invented what he called Bionic extender gloves. Using a 3D printer, Bizarro created these gloves for less than $100. The gloves have rods that make the fingers spring back up after they press the keys and allow Martin to play with all 10 fingers. Let's see these gloves and Martin in action.
To be able to use all 10 fingers on my hand after 22 years is a miracle, especially at the age of 80.
That's a miracle. Imagine not being able to do what you love for 25 years and then being able to do it again.
This story sure proves how beneficial technology can be. I wonder if we could play my favorite song, Silhouette by Boon.
Well, NexGen viewers, that about wraps up our show for today.
I'm Oscar.
And I'm Trenton.
And we are NexGen News, bringing news to the next generation.